MOTORMOUTH Jenkins here, welcoming you to our brand new YouTube channel. Hope that you'll come back and see every segment each and every week, and I will share preventative maintenance tips and regularly scheduled maintenance tips for your car. So whether you know a little bit about your car or absolutely nothing, this is the channel just for you, where I share over 35 years of experience as a qualified and licensed service technician with truck and coach, light truck and passenger vehicles. Come back and visit us and tell your friends, and we'll see you each and every week right here in the Car Connection Workshop on YouTube. And welcome to this week's Car Connection Workshop, another segment for you, and this one is kind of basic. I'm your host each and every week, each and every episode. Be sure to tune in to our radio broadcast. We're celebrating our 30th year, and you can find us on our website, what network we're located at carconnectionbusinessnetwork.com, and you can always email me, motormouth.jenkins@gmail.com, and there's also email available through our website. There's a website form there. But this week's program, I'm dedicating to those who know little, nothing, absolutely nothing, and maybe even less than nothing about your automobile. So this is a show for you. I'm going to walk you through some basics. So whether you're young or old, single, widowed, and you just need to know how to do some of the basics, I've selected this car to show you those basics because we can actually see the components. You know, with today's vehicles, you open the hood and all you see is plastic. And there's a reason behind that, and I'm going to talk about that just for a couple of minutes, because you do need to know the technology behind. I open the hood and I look in and I go, I have no idea where the windshield washer bottle is. Where do you put that fluid in? How do you check the oil? Do I have spark plugs? The reason behind all that plastic trim and everything is this is a big motor. This is a V8, so it has 8 cylinders, lots of horsepower. But look at the size of the engine bay. You could fit one of today's cars in here almost horizontally with room to spare. But on today's cars, you open the hood, you're lucky if you can get a debit card squeezed in somewhere. So the reason behind all the plastic is, here we have, everything is wide open. It can breathe. The air comes in through the front and the engine can breathe. On today's cars, we're taking smaller motors, creating higher horsepower in a very small space. The problem is heat. Heat is dangerous. That's what causes catastrophic engine failure and component failure. Here's what we're seeing as service techs. The underhood temperatures are 3 times what we see on this particular car here, where we have lots of air coming in, lots of open space in and around the engine. It can breathe. On today's cars, that's not true. They need all the plastic fairings that you have underneath, the one that you hit on the concrete parking slab and you broke it off, and then, when you get home, hubby says, oh, we don't need that, we'll just tear that off. Yes, you do need that plastic thingy down there, because just like NASCAR, they need as much airflow as possible. Your everyday driving car needs the same thing. Every piece of plastic that's down here is an air deflector. It's an air dam. It's trapping air and shooting it right into the engine bay area, and all those plastic shields in there are holding that airflow in and around the engine to get airflow in there to bring the underhood temperatures down. We are seeing underhood temperatures in excess of 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit, especially in the summer. You could bake a casserole under the hood of your car while you're driving home from work, or a dozen Raisin Bran muffins ready for tomorrow morning on the way home from work. Just imagine that. But I do have to tell you a story. I did heat up some Kraft dinner when I was working at Peterbilt on a truck that we had running. It was going through a cycle. So for myself and my buddy Boner, we put a casserole dish of KD on the engine of that truck, and an hour later we were eating it and it was steaming. It worked. So anyways, that was a bit of a rabbit hole. But I say all that to say this. We are seeing underhood temperatures in excess of 1200 Fahrenheit. That's stinking hot. So all those plastic components that you see under the hood, they all need to be there. All the plastic components underneath the bumper, the fairing in the front and the air dams in the front, they need to be there to get that airflow in around that engine, because heat is the enemy. All right, so today's edition dedicated to all those who know no difference between a wheel nut and a hubcap. This is your spot today. This is your spot. We're going to do some basics. And if you know the basics and you learn the basics, guess what? It doesn't really change. Even on today's technology, all the components and all the fluids I'm going to walk you through are on your modern day car today. All right, so let's get started. Should we get started? Okay, let's get started. Let's start with the coolant. Okay, on this car, we have what's called a closed system that has an overflow jug. So as long as I see coolant in here, and it says right on here, I love it, full cold, full hot. So if a little is good, you don't need to fill it all the way up to here, because the radiator, as long as you see full cold, full hot, and the level is there, or in between, you don't need to open this. But in this particular case, you'll get to see the segment. We fired this car up, pulled it out of a barn, and after 30 years, got the engine running. I put this engine in 30 years ago, and I ended up owning this car, which I didn't want to, stuffed it in a barn, and I moved out of the area, and I left it there for 30 years. So we're bringing it back to life. I haven't checked any fluids other than we did an oil change. I filled the cylinders up with a little bit of oil to lube them before cranking it over. So we're now going to check all the fluids, adjust them accordingly. So on this particular car, I haven't looked in here for a while, probably 30 years. And I can see I can't reach the coolant. So I can't even measure the coolant with my cool track. So what we're going to do is, at some point, I'll probably just do a full service on this car, although the transmission fluid, which is back here, it's clean. It's very clean. Extremely clean. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that even for fun. But I did have a friend that ate for $5 I got him to eat a baby pine cone, one of the green ones, and the look on his face, I laughed so hard I peed my pants. I got to tell you, it was funny. He did that for $5. Ate one of those little baby pine cones. So we're going to top this up, and here's what I want to tell you. This is an antifreeze, and no, Napa doesn't sponsor me, but I have been a loyal Napa customer for 44 years. This is this product. This is universal antifreeze. I don't really like that term, but it's recommended for older model vehicles. 1986 qualifies domestic and foreign cars and light duty trucks. Concentrate. Don't buy the premix. You'll have to watch our coolant video to find out why, because I tested it. There's something you really need to know. So go into our YouTube channel and look up the video on super silicone silicates antifreeze. I blend my own. Nice. It's my own label. Do you like my label? I particularly like the yellow. Goes with the FJ. All right, so here's what I do. I'm not going to fill that with straight antifreeze because that's wrong. I mix it myself. So it's a brand new jug, looky see. There's been no tampering. I'll use my scrunch to get in there. And folks, see this foil? On anything you open and you're adding fluids to the car, don't let this go into the coolant, into the motor oil, into the transmission fluid, into the power steering fluid. It causes blockage and problems. So even a piece that big, it's going to suck to be you if you drop that in there. So be very careful as not to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my own water. I'm going to take 50% of this and make 2 jugs of MOTORMOUTH 50-50. So I can do it 2 ways. I'm going to go over to my filtration system like this and put this in there, and I'm going to put 50% filtered water, not tap water, because that's not good. So that's a basic as well. I'm showing you how you can make your own antifreeze 50-50. So 50% water, 50% concentrated antifreeze, and I'm using filtered water, the filtre water, because all the junk that comes out of your tap is no good. We cannot use tap water to mix in our antifreeze or put in our engines because of all the undesirable products that are in the water, like chlorine, aluminum, heavy metals, all that stuff. So I just want to make sure I got a good halfer. Just a little bit too much. Where are we at here? There's 1 liter, 2 liters, 3 liters, that's 4 liters, so I'm just a little bit too much. And it's important that you can do this. This is like baking a cake. Just follow the ingredients. So I'm mixing my own, because then I know what I got. Okay, I'm at 50. There's 2 liters. It's a 4-liter jug to here, to the beginning of the handle. So 1 liter, 2 liters, 3 liters, 4 liters. So when you see it there, some of the jugs are clear like this. Makes it a little easier, but you can still see it. So I'm just a hair bit. I'll just take a bit more out. Very happy. Okay, so that's my water. Totally filtered. There's no byproducts in it whatsoever. So now I'm going to take it up to here. And this is concentrate. So again, this is something you can do yourself. Mix up a jug of 50-50, and that's what you're going to top up with. Because if we use too much antifreeze, then it changes the boiling point and the freeze point. So if you mix it like this, no problem. And you can do this. It's easy. See how easy it is? It's like baking a cake. Read the recipe, pull out your ingredients. I'm making my own jug of antifreeze. So now I'll give you another trade secret. So now I have 50% of antifreeze in here. Now I can make another jug and mark it 50-50 with a Sharpie. And now I will have 2 50-50 mixes that I made from 1 jug of appropriate concentrated antifreeze. Concentrate means it's smart. Concentrate. My English teacher used to say that. Concentrate. I think I'm going to black out. Yeah, so I'll mix this after. You don't need to see me do that, but I'll turn that jug into another 50-50. So now we've got the fluid we need to put in the radiator. So what do we need? We need a funnel. So we go to the funnel box. It always pays to have different funnels. That one has a special funnel. It's special, like me. So they tell me I'm spesso. I'm very spesso. So anyways, so now we're going to give it a beverage. And just pour slowly. And you know what? Here's what I'm going to tell you. After being a service tech all these years, decades, you're going to spill it. You're going to say, I'm not going to spill that. Yes, you are. You're going to spill it. So you can either just spill it right from the beginning or wait till the end and you'll spill it. And then you know what? You're not disappointed then. So we just get that in there. We're going to top up the radiator, and then we're going to proceed to top up the overflow reservoir and put the level where it should be. And then once the engine's run and warmed up, the next morning is when you can look at the overflow jug and see where the level is. Because what will happen is when the engine cools off and the coolant cools down, the overflow tank will suck it in from the radiator, and it'll show you where the true reading is. So then you don't need to open the radiator to top it up anymore because you're there. Wow, it took a lot. It took almost 50 of that. Almost. So it's right there at the neck. You know what? Mark this one on the calendar. I actually didn't spill any. Wow. Okay, so now we're going to go in the overflow, and I'm going to fill it up because this was low. We may top it up again. I'm going to put it halfway between full cold, full hot. That's where I'm going. So I'll see if I can do this so that you can see that happening. And where does it go? Good question. I'm glad you asked. Either A, your neighbor's borrowing a cup of antifreeze and not telling you, or you got a leaker, or it just it tends to evaporate. So fluid levels, they change. So you can see it coming up there. So we're getting this cooling system recharged. 30 years. It's almost halfway. So like I said, I'm going to put it at halfway because at some point I will run this car and just let it warm right up. And somebody say, well, you went a little bit over the halfway mark. Okay, it's still all right. And I'm just going to top this up just a little bit more. So mix your own product. That's what I'm saying. Go watch that video I made on testing antifreeze. It's entitled Super Silicone Silicates. Something you need to know. And I purposely went and I bought some pre-mixed antifreeze and I tested it. And what I discovered is absolutely shameless. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, exactly. It should not be happening. So if I'm putting water in my antifreeze and blending it, I'm blending it myself from my filtration system. There's no deposits, chemicals, chlorine, nothing coming out of that filtre that I have on the sink. And it's there in the shop for a reason. We cannot top up batteries with car batteries with tap water. We cannot put it in our cooling system because the system is that fussy that any metals and the chlorine and other chemicals in the water, today's cars do not like it and do not want it. You will upset the feng shui in a bad way. So now we can leave that and check it again later on and see how it's doing and top it up further. So after the engine's run, you've topped it up with 50-50, you mixed yourself, now you know how to do it, how easy it is, and go to the parts store and get yourself a bottle of these Cool Tracks, and that's how you're going to test your antifreeze. And yes, you can do this. You're just going to dip a strip into the coolant. And again, this is on this particular car, I have a sneaky way of sampling from there. Most of you probably can't. So when the car's cold, open this, take your test strip, poke it into the coolant, 15 seconds, take it out, just rattle it off, and then what you're going to do is this. Look at the chart. You have 2 strips. Is there a little bit dripping out of there? Or did I spill that? Tiny little bit there? Well, yeah, there might be a little hose clamp issue there, and guess where? That coolant went in 30 years on the ground, so I'll need to put a new hose clamp on that. We'll get on that. So right now I'll just put this rag in there just to absorb it, but I will. Antifreeze isn't cheap. So you know what? Fluids aren't cheap. So you want to make sure if you've got a fluid level that's really, really low, top it up and then keep an eye on your driveway or your garage, wherever you park the car, and just keep an eye to see if it's dropping again, because if it is, you may need a service tech to have a look at it. So back to the strips. You dip the strip, 15 seconds, take it out, Flufordorf it, that's a technical term, bring it over to the container. The first strip is here, first chart, and you read it. See what color it turns and match it up. So we put 50-50 in there. I should see that color right there come up on the first part of the strip. So that gives us our percentage of glycol, so the percent of water to antifreeze. The next chart, this tab. So this is going to tell us if the antifreeze is good, bad, or ugly. So pH balance, acid corrosion level, and the alkalinity level. And it's important because if it doesn't match up and it's in the unsatisfactory area, cooling system needs to be flushed immediately, because that means the antifreeze is corrosive to your engine. So that's it. You get a package of these twice a year, check your own coolant. And you'll know, all you got to do is, it's no different than taking your own pH balance. It's no different going to the health food store and getting some litmus strips and checking your own alkalinity level. Who knew? Next! All right, so now we've done coolant. What do we do next? Let's do motor oil. Now this car is lifted. It's on jack stand jimmies. And I know it's level because the jack stands are all at the same height. And the floor is perfectly level in here. It was done with lasers. Okay, so we're just going to check motor oil. And I don't have a cloth. Wow. How is that possible? Lock the doors. There's been a crime committed. Somebody took my shop towel. You know what? Good thing to do is save all your old t-shirts and stuff that you throw out. Cut them up, make yourself your own bag of rags at home. Very cheap. Okay, this is the engine oil. And we know this is the drinker side of the engine because there's where the cap is. Now, if you're wondering, well, what fluid does it take? This car's 1986, and it tells me right on the cap. That's where I would say, care to sniff the cap? Ugh, smells like work socks. Hidden in my work boots for 10 years. All the information is right on your oil filler cap. On a majority of vehicles out there. Tells you everything. It takes SAE 5W30, and it needs to meet the API service with the prefix and suffix SFCC. So that you should see on the bottle of oil. So that's where you get that information. Well, what kind of oil does it take? And a neighbor will say, oh, that takes synthetic. No, it doesn't. It takes 5W30 API SFCC. It doesn't say synthetic. But it's a preference. If you want to change it up and put synthetic in, go ahead. But I could tell you a story about that comes right from one of the oil engineers I had a chance to interview from Valvoline many years ago. You'll see that in another video. What he told me about synthetic and semi-synthetic in today's automobiles would be enough to make the hairs on the top of your toes flutter like a butterfly. Not saying your toes are hairy or anything. We sure would save on putting socks on. Okay, so we're going in with the stick. Make sure the engine's off. The engine's not been running for quite some time, and that you're on level ground when you're checking fluids. Very important. Level ground, or at least close. Like this, no good. Like that, no good. As close to that as you can, and this car is completely level. So we just did an oil change service on this, so it's going to be fairly clean, and it is very clean. Yes, and we're right here, right at the full mark. So what you'll see on the dipstick is And feel free to check it a couple times because some dipsticks are my friends. It's true. They're not here. You'll see, let me turn it this way. You'll see on here, can you see that full mark? Yes? The judges say yes. Yes, they can. So you want to make sure it'll say add. It says add a quarter if you're at these two dots right here. If you're somewhere between these two dots and the full mark, so you're in between, you're safe. It's better to be a little down than over. Overfilling's just as bad as underfilling. So, and it even tells you on this dipstick, if you really look, oil change, API, service, and all the other information that's on the oil cap. So that's where you want to be. So it should show you, it'll either say low or high, or it'll just have two marks, one down near the bottom and one further up. And as long as you're in between there, your oil level is safe. That's all you need to know. Okay? Very important. Underfilling engine oil is just as bad as overfilling. Okay? Next, let's go over to power steering, and then I'll come back to automatic transmission fluid, because we are going to need to fire the car up for a few minutes, because with automatics, if it's your vehicle's equipped with a dipstick, then the vehicle will more than likely need to be running to check the transmission fluid. All right, because right now if I pull this out, the level is going to be way up there. And you can see it. It's way up here. And watch what happens when we start it. That's, again, we have the same thing. We have a low mark and a high mark up here where my thumb is. So when there's a crosshatch pattern there, like a diamond pattern. So that's generally how they indicate that that's the level mark. Because some of these dipstick tubes and dipstick readers, indicators are lousy on some of these cars. My FJ Cruiser, I still have problems reading the level. It is really hard to read on that particular dipstick. So we'll need to fire the car up for this, for transmission fluid. And it may need some, I don't know. We've only run this for a very limited amount of time since we got it started last week. We got it running. So power steering's hidden under here on this one, but you can still at least get to it. That's what I say. And so we want to check this out. At least you can get in there. And I'll tell you, the Corvette is something else to get to the power steering. Whatever engineer designed that car, he gods. And we are right there. So again, on your power steering, it's going to show you a hot level and it's going to show you a low level. And we are right in between here, so we wipe that off. And if we can, it's a little hard to see, but there is an add mark here somewheres. There it is. So it gives you a cold level right here, tip of my finger or tip of my thumbnail, and then it gives you a full level up here. So, and the thing with power steering fluid, just like transmission fluid, the fluid levels change when the oil gets hot. It gets taller. It expands. So your cold level, I always say if it's in the cold level and you're checking it when it's cold, you're safe. Because the oil is going to expand and it's going to bring it up about halfway, which puts you right in the zone from here to here. That's where it says hot. So that's how far the fluid can rise. It's from here, which is the cold mark over here, to the hot mark over here. It'll move that far. So you don't want to overfill it. Again, power steering fluid is specific to your year, make, and model, so you want to find out what it takes. Because it could be transmission fluid Dexron with Mercron. It could be a synchro mesh oil. It could be hydraulic fluid. So you need to check and just verify what fluid your power steering takes. And again, periodically they need to be topped up. If you're topping it up all the time, we have something going on. Okay, you've got something going on, a small leak somewhere that needs to be looked at. So we're okay on the power steering. Nobody has borrowed any fluid there. Thank goodness. All right, next, we're coming over to the brakes. And we'll just do a little square dancing here. Oh no, let's do the windshield washer jug. Why not? It's right here. Look at the size of this critter. You could take a bath in there almost. So the only thing I really want to tell you about this is make sure that you do have windshield washer fluid in your jug and it's not antifreeze. I've seen that happen a lot. So clearly mark, if you're going to be doing your top-ups yourself, mark your jugs. Use a nice black Sharpie and mark the jug. I do that here in the workshop. If you look on my shelf, you'll see green frog tape and a jug is marked. And so you can clearly know what you're grabbing and not assuming. Because I had a customer many years ago. It was her car. He was car illiterate and mechanically not so good. And 3 times he put antifreeze in his wife's windshield washer jug. And when you squirt that on the windshield, everybody disappears. It's nasty. You can't see diddly squat. So make sure in the winter you're using minus 45, minus 50, not minus 35 or minus 40. We need it colder. So I just do minus 50, and I pretty much run it all year round. So I'm going to get some washer fluid, and each to his own brand. Again, this isn't a product that I like, and no, they don't sponsor the channel, but this is minus 45, and it's concentrated formula. And I've been buying it for years, so I usually buy a half a skid, and then with some of my friends we split it up for the season. So fill her up, get that going. You have to practice this. I call that a 10-inch pour. And just top it. Look at that. And it all pours back except 1 tablespoon. Liars. Okay, that's good. That'll slosh around a little bit. Again, make sure you're using windshield washer fluid. And I think I hear it slapping the floor. And it is. I'm going to get a container before I lose all my product. Yeah. Gas and oil. Help me! I'm losing my coolant. We'll grab it. So something has a leak. Load the reservoir. There we go. We want to know why it was empty. Now we know. There's a hose somewhere. And it is leaking right here. So it may be the bottom of the reservoir, more than likely. So we'll catch our fluid back, and I'll pull that jug. So now we know where it's going. I'll catch it in our antifreeze bucket, which is cleaned out, and we'll put it back in the can. And now we know where that's going. So we'll pull the reservoir out, and I'll have a look at the bottom of it, and I may have to plastic weld it, but we'll fix it. Because we know how. All right, next, last but least. So we can't keep blaming the neighbor that the washer bottle's emptying. Darn. This is the power brake reservoir. And again, you want to make sure you know for your particular vehicle what fluid it takes, whether it's .3 or .4. I think we're up to .5 brake fluid. And you can generally find all the fluids and their identification in your owner's manual. So just flip through there. So inside here, we have 2 reservoirs. All right. This is for the front brakes. This is for the rear brakes. And I know already on the Fire Chicken here that we have a ruptured brake line on the rear, so the rear reservoir is empty, pretty much. The front is right where it should be. There is a window here, shows you minimum and maximum. So again, anywhere in between is good. A little bit higher is good. Don't overfill because it'll just smoosh out of this thing and it'll be all over the place. And brake fluid does remove paint, just so you know. So you want to be careful with that. So we've got to do some rear brake work on this, and we knew that coming in after pulling it out of the barn. There's not a chance that all the brake lines are going to be good. And so we do have a leaker back there. I verified that already. So when we fix the line, go through the brakes, then we'll bleed this. But you can check it. And 90% of the time, you don't need to take the lid off because you have, and you want to make sure this snaps on. Otherwise, it'll be gone. It'll fall down. It might start fire on the exhaust. We also have a minimum, maximum for the front reservoir right here. Same thing. You've got that window, shows you the line where the minimum is. You just want to be somewhere halfway in that window. And if you see it in there, I just give them a shake, and you can usually see it through the window. And then it avoids having to open it up. And because a lot of times, it makes mess. It does. It's a ghastly business. It'll make some mess. So that's what that's all about. Every vehicle has a master cylinder, unless it's a full electric car. That's a whole new ball game. All right, where do we go next? Let's do air filter. Now, on some cars, the air filter, I think it was the first thing in, and then they built the rest of the car around it. They're a little difficult to get to. This is a piece of cake because it's right here on the top. And that's just one of the reasons why I also picked this vehicle was I wouldn't have to take half the car apart so that you can see the air filter. The air filter is right, accessible. On some cars it is. My 99 Honda Civic, it's right up top. I can get to it in literally 5 minutes. So this definitely needs a new air filter. It's filthy dirty. You dirty little beast. Yeah, so that's our engine air filter. It's not a big deal. You can also look that up on your own make and model online. You can do a little Google search and see if it's difficult to get to or it's not. And as I said, they've got the air filter housing up top like the washer fluid bottle is here. It's easy to get to, and on others, my goodness, it's a project. On some of these cars, it's ridiculous what you got to take off just to get to the engine air filter. So if it looks a little more involved, then just let your service tech take care of that. Okay, so we're going to do the transmission fluid next. So we're going to need to fire it up for a minute and then come over and check it. And we may have to top it up, I don't know. So far, we've only needed to top up the antifreeze. Motor oil's good. Washer fluid's an issue. We got a situation there to fix, and we've got rear brakes, brake lines, and all kinds of brake stuff to do, and then we will finish off the reservoir. So we're going to fire this puppy up. Excuse me. Pardon me. Do you have any Grey Poupon? Fire in the hole. Let's give it a little love juice here. Love potion number 10.5. We got fluid leaking over there now too. What's going on? Let's have a look at that. Are we losing our antifreeze? Where's that coming out? Does anybody really know what time it is? I don't know. I see a little fluid down there. Yeah, it's dripping there too. Good night. Let's have another antifreeze bucket, can we? It's a party. Stuff is liquid gold, let me tell you. We'll have to see what's going on there. Yeah, I don't know. That's my job. Find out what's leaking and fix it. Okay, so we're going to fire it up now. Again. I don't know. What is that? I think it's a magnet. It is a magnet. I think that was on there to hold the thingy on there. Okay, we're firing up. We're going to check the automatic transmission fluid. All right, there we go. It's showing a little full at the moment because it was cold. So now we'll clean it off. Again, make sure the car is level. And on some vehicles, it might tell you you need to put the automatic transmission in neutral, or most will say park, but some of them say neutral. So you got to check your manual for that. But these are all things that you can do. You just have to familiarize yourself where they are on your own vehicle, and you can learn that from your owner's manual. So we got just into the hash mark. So we're a little on the low side. We're about a half a quart down right now on transmission fluid. So we're going to put some in while we're at it. And this is the funnel. Grab our transmission fluid, which is for this car, ATF, automatic transmission fluid, Dexron with Mercron. Dexron with Mercron. For this particular car. And again, fluids are specific to the vehicle. So again, your owner's manual is going to show you all the fluids and what they're called, so you have those at home and you can do your own top-ups yourself. So this is a half a quart already. So we just need to bring it up about a half a quart. Just give it a couple of minutes to go down. And then just cup the end because it'll come out forever. All right, we're going to check it. We should be spot on. Again, underfill is just as bad as overfill. You want to be where the fluids need to be, where they need to be, to avoid complications. So don't be afraid. See that? It's put us right where we need to be. Spot on. If I'd have poured, just went ahead and put a whole quart in there, I would be way over. So it's better to put it, if you're not sure, I always say if I'm at the add mark, I'm safe to put at least a half a quart, then recheck. Than to say, oh, it should take a whole quart, and then you're over by half a quart. You don't want to do that. Okay, we're going to shut that down. We know we got a couple of leakages. Sounds pretty good for 30 years. There we go. So I hope you've enjoyed this segment and at least got some takeaway. And you can also look at the belts yourself as well. We got two on this one and a serpentine belt here, a multi-groove belt. I know they're brand new, but they'll be dry. I have this is a 3-belt operation, one for air conditioning, one does the alternator and the water pump. That's the wider belt, and then there's one belt hidden in behind, which is for the power steering. But on a lot of vehicles today, it's one belt drives all the accessories. So if that belt goes, When they break, they're about 15 feet long, and it can create a nice whip underneath the engine because it'll be trapped. When it snaps, it'll be trapped on one of the pulleys, and it just becomes a whip until it spits it out. And I've seen it do a lot of damage. Grab hoses, radiator hoses, rip half the radiator apart, pull the air conditioning components out. So you want to make sure that have your belts and your hoses checked by a professional, and if they look like they're at that stage where they're questionable, as I always say, if you can't say yes, it can remain in service, then it's a no. If it's a maybe, it's a no. If it's a I'm not sure, it's a no. Just change them out. The last thing you want to do is overheat your motor or lose your power steering. But like I said, with today's vehicles, one belt drives all the accessories. So that means one belt drives the alternator, the water pump, the power steering, and the air conditioning. So when that belt breaks, it's all over but the crying. You lose everything. The engine's going to overheat. You lose your power steering. Everything just stops. It stops charging, and you're in a very difficult situation, and a lot of damage can happen. So it's better to replace them. If you see something when you're checking your fluids with your belt, you got some fraying going on, or you see something that doesn't look right, bring it to the attention of a service tech. Just stop in for a minute and let them look at it, so that a lot of times it's the simple things that can be caught before they turn into something major. So just having a look around to see if there's something that just catches your eye under the hood that doesn't quite look right. Get the vehicle into the tech and show them what you see, so that they can verify for you if it is of concern or not. So I hope you got something on basic maintenance. Don't be afraid. These are things you can do yourself. Get in tune with your owner's manual and flip through and look at the lubrication area, the fluid area. They usually give you a fluid chart in the manual, but there's enough information in there that you can get yourself started at home just checking the basics. Washer fluid, antifreeze, power steering, automatic transmission fluid, and of course your engine oil. So till next time, be sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel, Nile MOTORMOUTH Jenkins. Like, subscribe, and share, and leave a comment on our videos, because that helps us a lot. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so that you are notified when a new video goes up on our website. So till next time, keep it on our 100 and put the coffee on, because we're coming to your house.